At Red Rebuttal, I love to take requests, and recently I was asked to make a video about the Christ myth conspiracy, or as I like to call it, the copycat Jesus conspiracy, since that is essentially what the conspiracy is saying, that Jesus was copied from other myths of the ancient world that predate him. Now, I've already made a video for Horus, and I've been asked to make one for Mithra and Dionysus as well. So, I thought I'd start off with Mithra. Well, the first thing we need to establish is who exactly are we talking about, Mithra or Mithras? See, Mithra was an Indian Iranian deity. Supposedly, this mythology slowly spread into the Mediterranean world where it confronted Christianity head-on and evolved into Mithras. Over this transition from Mithra to Mithras, his story changed and evolved as the mythology spread. In fact, scholars often divide up Mithra into different categories, the Iranian Mithra and the Roman Mithras. Some divide up the mythology even further because of how different they are from each other, though some scholars argue that the two are isolated and merely share a similar name, which conspiracy theories tend to overlook these differences and pull from all forms of Mithraic tradition wherever they find a supposed match to Christianity. It usually involves claiming initially that Mithra predates Christianity, which is true, but then they switch to attributes of the Roman Mithras mythology that postdates Christianity. This leaves the average layman with the misconception that the post-Christian Mithras traditions predate Christianity, when they often do not. More importantly, there is hardly any existing writings of the Roman Mithras that predate Christianity, mostly just engravings and other symbols, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, leaves a lot of room for speculation and interpretation, which is anything but factual. As for Mithra, or Mithras, himself, he was part of a polytheistic mythology, just one of many gods who battled demons and evildoers like an ancient world Batman, just not nearly as cool. He was also a great mediator between the good and evil gods, and was considered god of the sun, god of justice, and god of war. His title God of War made him an ideal god for cult worship in the Roman military. That sounds just like Jesus.
No.
So let's tackle this conspiracy claim by claim. Born of a virgin. Well, according to Myth Encyclopedia, he was born of the earth. Mithra emerged from a broken rock with a torch in one hand and a sword in the other. These objects represented his two roles as sun god and war god. The Encyclopedia Britannica states he was born bearing a torch and armed with a knife, beside a sacred stream and under a sacred tree, a child of the earth itself. And unless you're an alien from another planet who's never been to Earth, it should be pretty apparent that virgin women are not the same as rocks and trees. So where did this whole virgin claim come from? Well, I checked the blogs of those who believe in this conspiracy, and I couldn't find any sources to this claim. They merely state that he was born of a virgin, and leave it at that. So where this claim of virgin birth comes from, I can't confirm, but one source did say that Mithra was born from the virgin Anahita, and though Anahita was indeed considered a goddess of virginity, her relationship with Mithra is argued by many historians to be that of a cohort, not a mother. Whether or not this is true, though, doesn't really matter, since this virgin tradition is post-Christian. So the claim that Mithra and Jesus share the same virgin birth story is incorrect. Born on December 25th. Well, this is irrelevant because Christ's birth on December 25th is not biblical, but instead a Christian tradition started long after Jesus died. Furthermore, December 25th historically celebrated Sol Invictus, the official sun god of the Roman Empire, established 200 years after the lifetime of Christ. Mithras could be possibly associated with this date, being that he was considered a god of the sun, but this is nothing earth-shattering, as the date is a universal celebration of winter solstice, celebrated worldwide, regardless of your religion. Technically, one could argue that it is incorrect to claim either Jesus or Mithra were born on December 25th, so this claim is also false. Sorry, baby Jesus. Star in the East. Well, that's kind of vague. What do we mean by star in the East? If the theory is that Mithra's birth was designated by a star in the east that led 3 wise men to Mithra, I can assure you this is not so. Or at least, there is no evidence that such a story ever belonged to Mithra. All I could find were blogs stating this story, with no sourcing for their data. Meanwhile, it is missing from all the credible authorities on ancient mythology I used in my research. Furthermore, timeline-wise, Mithra was supposedly born before humans existed, so no wise men could have visited him. Surprise, surprise, this claim appears to be bogus as well. Had 12 disciples. Nope, sorry, try again. The Iranian Mithra had 1 disciple, and the Roman Mithras had 2 disciples. So where did this claim of 12 disciples come from? Well, it stems from an engraving of Mithra slaying a bull with 12 figures around him. Conspirators immediately jump to the conclusion that they are the 12 disciples. despite nothing indicating they're disciples. Besides, there are two big problems with that assumption. First, this engraving is post-Christian, so if they are disciples, then the tables turn and now it's Christianity that can argue they've been copied. Second, scholars of the credible variety point out that these figures most likely represent the 12 phases of the zodiac, so this claim is without a doubt false. Performed miracles? What? Stop the presses! A god that performs miracles? No way! Yeah, I'm pretty sure all gods perform some form of miracles, which is usually why they're considered gods. To me, it's like accusing Dali of copying Raphael because Raphael painted, and Dali painted too. Well, yeah, they're both painters. That's what painters do. Doesn't mean the latter copied the former. Honestly, this one comes off as just lazy filler to me. But hey, at least something in this picture wasn't false. Dead for 3 days? Resurrected? Nothing in Mithraic tradition indicated he ever died, let alone resurrected. Tertullian did write that Mithraic believers reenacted resurrection scenes, but this was post-Christianity, so this claim appears to be bogus too. And when we look at our list again, we see that the only thing Jesus and Mithra have in common was being capable of doing some miraculous deeds. Hardly compelling evidence of copying.
But wait! There's more!
There are some further problems with this theory that can be extended to all other Jesus copycat theories. First, to argue that Mithra came first, then Jesus came after, therefore, Jesus is copied from Mithra, is a bad argument. It is essentially a post hoc argument, that A came before B, therefore A is the cause of B. But this is fallacious. You need proof of causation, or in this case, copying, to conclude copying. Not just supposed similarities, which as it turns out aren't so similar after all. Now, let's hypothetically assume we believe Jesus was copied from Mithraic traditions. Some difficulties then emerge. For example, why would Jews, who show a long history of hating all things pagan, adopt a pagan god? 2. If Mithraic traditions were well known enough that the disciples could copy from them, wouldn't everyone else know it too, and be like, hey, your Jesus sounds a lot like Mithra. WTF, man. 3. If Mithraic traditions spread into Roman culture around the same time as Jesus, wouldn't that be redundant? Why would they be treated as separate gods by the Romans if they were as similar as this picture claims? And 4. Why would the disciples willingly die in brutally painful ways for something they copied and knew to be false? No one is going to let themselves be filleted alive or crucified upside down for a lie they helped fabricate.
Think about that. That's just dumb.
So, hopefully it is clear by now that this copycat conspiracy is a joke. But maybe you're not convinced. Maybe you're thinking, well, of course I'm saying these things because I'm a dirty, no-good Christian. Well, in that case, if you don't believe me, then maybe you'll believe what some atheists have to say. For example, atheist Bible scholar Bart Ehrman, who has referred to these Jesus copycat conspiracies as immature-ish, wrong-headed, and outlandish. According to the atheists at Atheist Experience, the Christ myth conspiracy is an unscholarly, sophomoric, horribly flawed oversimplification that tries to portray Christianity as nothing more than the next incarnation of the astrologically themed religions that preceded it. Like all conspiracy theories, they combine a few facts, focus on correlations, and build an intriguing story that seems to fit the pieces together nicely, provided you don't actually dig below the surface to find out where they might have gone wrong. So, if even atheists are saying this theory is a joke, and virtually all the academic world is saying it's a joke, then maybe you should start questioning it at the very least. Or you can just angrily fire up your motorcycle and rev the engines loud to drown out the truth.
I can't hear you!
Don't be that guy. Thank you for watching Red Rebuttal. Please feel free to comment below with your thoughts and opinions on the video. If you like my work, please be sure to like or share my videos. More importantly, if you have any anti-Christian memes or cartoons you want rebutted, email me at redrebuttal@gmail.com.